Hi everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're looking for a new show to binge or wanting to revisit an old classic, let us be your guide through the infinite list of TV shows.
So come join us every Friday as we discuss the pilot for a TV show while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storylines.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, where your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello everyone, welcome back to our pod.
Hello, how's it going? We haven't talked in a while.
I know. So yeah, we recorded the challenge, which we ended up going for an hour and a half.
And then a lot to say.
And then we made dinner, watched the newest episode of Abbott Elementary. Really funny.
Fave.
Really funny. I love the return of Tariq. I think he's a really funny character.
He's a good contrast to.
Oh, you can't believe Janine dated this guy for such a long time. So I'm not going to we went into a huge rant about Dancing with the Stars that took up a chunk of the episode. So I'm not going to kind of fill this one up with more or less pointless banter that has nothing to do with the episode. So we are continuing Jeff Month with Autobiography by Reality TV. This show is kind of unique in the fact that I wouldn't consider this one of my favorite reality shows. It is just very much reminds me of a very specific era of my life.
Okay. And
it is very, very specific. This is when I lived in Florida. And it was kind of the first kind of first kind of evolution of reality TV where there was just so much going on. There was so much reality TV, but this was kind of the era during the lifestyle drama reality TV. That was the beginning of Bravo. That was the beginning of Girls Next Door. You got a lot of TV shows and there's a lot of reality shows that remind me of when I lived in Florida, but this one always sticks out, and I'll kind of get into that in a little bit. So today we are doing The Hills. In case you don't know, it was a reality show from the mid 2000s. It when you go back and watch, it looks like it is 2006. It looks like it is 2007 with the quality, with the way they're dressed, with all of the technology, the flip phones, all of it. So yeah, we're gonna get into that and more. And Anna's gonna do what she always does and give us some episode and series information.
All right, The Hills, new city, new drama. The Hills was an American reality show that aired on MTV from May 31st, 2006 to July 13th, 2010 for 6 seasons and a total of 102 episodes. The series is a direct spin-off of Laguna Beach, the real Orange County. Laguna Beach focused on the lives of teens living in Orange County and their regular everyday lives. The Hills focuses on Laguna Beach cast member Lauren Conrad as she moves to Los Angeles shortly after graduating high school to pursue a career in fashion. Along with Conrad, the series stars Heidi Montag, Lauren's former classmate and current roommate, Audrina Patridge, Heidi's friend, Lauren's co-worker Whitney Port. Recurring cast members include Spencer Pratt, Heidi's boyfriend and eventual husband and still husband.
Yep.
Jason Waller, a former Laguna Beach cast member and Lauren's love interest for the beginning of the series. Other former Laguna Beach cast members that make an appearance on the series include Lo Bosworth, Lauren's bestie, Stephen Coletti, Lauren's friend, love interest, and Kristen Cavallari, Lauren's rival, who had her own show, Very Cavallari. Yep. After Lauren's departure from the show halfway through season 5, Bosworth and Cavallari became series regulars until the show's end. The Hills was instantly popular since Lauren was the fan favorite that everyone rooted for. After graduating high school, she moved to San Francisco to attend the Academy of Art University, and Coletti attended San Francisco State. Lauren moved back home, but then decided to move to Los Angeles. Series creator and producers thought that Lauren's journey into adulthood would be a fun and interesting watch. Plus, everyone can relate to moving away from home for the first time and being on your own. The Hills created several spin-offs, including The City, which focused on Whitney's move from Los Angeles to New York City, and a reboot, The Hills: New Beginnings, was released in 2019, which followed the lives of the former cast members nearly 10 years after the original show had ended. You can currently watch The Hills on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it wasn't like there wasn't a lot of info on The Hills. It just, most of it was just, I hate to say it, but kind of like irrelevant. It wasn't a show that like won awards. It wasn't like this groundbreaking thing. It was one of those like if you know kind of shows. But yeah, so I watched Laguna Beach because I watched the scripted show The OC,
Yes.
which Misha Barton, Adrian Brody, Adam Brody.
Adam
sorry,
Brody.
I always do that. Adam Brody. And then so they were like, let's make a show about the kids who actually live in Orange County,
Yes.
Laguna Beach, which I watched because I was maybe like a year or two older than them. So it was kind of like I was still technically kind of a teenager when it
very
came
much
out. I
your
was like
age.
19. They were like 17 and 18. And, it wasn't much I could relate to because it was very soap opera-y. It was very rich kid kind of stuff, even though they weren't like, it wasn't like the OC or Beverly Hills 90210 where it was really like over the top rich kids, but they came from wealthy homes because Laguna Beach is a wealthy town. But I watched Laguna Beach kind of casually, but it was The Hills. I was living in Florida, and I remember watching The Hills, the very beginning of it, and kind of in a way relating to that was something that I was going through at the time. I had just moved to a new state, a new city. I didn't know anybody. I was very new. I was trying to make it on my own. It was the first time I was really away from home, like I moved away from home. And, the problems were, I did not have the same problems as they did on The Hills, but it was, I could relate to having to make these, what seemed like very trivial decisions, seemed like such a big deal at the time because it was the first time I was experiencing it, and it was the first time I was having to make these decisions on my own.
Yeah.
I couldn't just go to my dad's house or go to dinner with my mom and vent about my problems. Technology was still very new back then. Cell phones were very new back then, so it was still like
expensive.
I couldn't just like we've said before. I couldn't just text back then. They cost per text. Phone calls were very limited because you paid. You didn't pay by the minute, but you paid for a certain amount of minutes each month.
Yeah, and then you paid by the minute.
Yes. So I related to that part. There were other elements of The Hills that I related to, but it was mostly just kind of like the friendship dynamics, certain common things that happen, like love triangles and not liking the person that your friend is dating, or when you have a roommate who kind of sucks, or if you're the bad roommate, like we all kind of deal with that. Most of us deal with all that stuff in our late teens and early 20s. So it was like I didn't live in their world, but I related to like aspects of it. So I just kind of became hooked.
Yeah.
And it became like I categorized this 100% as like a guilty pleasure. This is 100% just a guilty pleasure show. I never really, the funny thing about Laguna Beach and The Hills, I didn't necessarily like any of them, especially some of the cast members that we'll talk about in this episode. But like, I don't have a super long plot summary. These are 25-minute episodes. But yeah, I wasn't like, it was really funny because like it wasn't like rooting for anyone. It wasn't like when we watched the challenge and people were like when Corey is on there or Darrell is on the challenge and we're rooting for them, or when we really like someone on Big Brother, that like Taylor on her season of Big Brother, we kind of really enjoyed her journey and we were rooting for her to make it to the end.
Yeah.
And other TV shows. This was not that TV show. This was not that reality show for me.
No.
Even though I related to some of the stuff that they went through, I was not sitting there being like, wow, Heidi's really cool. Or I wasn't sitting there being like, wow, Spencer would be one of my friends. That never came through my mind. I couldn't stand most of these people. And I have to say, like, that was very much the vibe a lot of the times for reality TV back then. Like, I know you effing hate Dick Donato and Danielle Donato from Big Brother Season 8. But back then, people rooted for the villain. People rooted for the person that was making good TV. And the reason why people shipped Heidi and Spencer was because they were so much drama. And it was like we all wanted to see the shit that they were going to instigate each episode, because that's just what they did. And it wasn't like they were doing it for the camera. That's just who they were. And I think we lost a lot of that over the years with these kind of performative people that come on and are playing a character, are playing an archetype, a stereotype of some kind. Back then, a lot of it was just like, this is who they were. Like when you watch Girls Next Door, yeah, it's heavily edited. They make really cheesy sound effects. They made things look a certain way, but like, love it or hate it, they were being their genuine selves, and they weren't what I like to call self-editing, which is kind of the person comes on a reality show and very much wants to be the certain type of character because it will get them more followers, it'll get them brand deals, because
that didn't exist back then.
Their Twitch channel could finally take off, their podcast can finally take off, whatever. Back then, it was just, I'm doing this thing. I doubt they made a lot of money. I doubt that they were really paid. Even at this point, I doubt any of them were really getting paid that much. And it was just really interesting to kind of watch. This is kind of the last era of the genuine reality shows, I would say. Obviously, there are still some around. You get genuine people that come on reality TV, but there are just so many more characters now, and that's how I always kind of refer to it.
And they're all looking to keep their 15 minutes of fame.
They're clout chasers,
What other reality show can I get on from here? Like, will Big Brother lead to The Challenge or The Amazing Race,
right.
or The Bachelor or The Bachelorette will be on the next Dancing with the Stars.
Yep.
They all kind of are like petri dishes of incest of reality shows.
If I get on Real Housewives of whatever city, I might be able to record an album. I might be able to, tour a stand-up special like the girls from Summer House are doing. Like, it's just kind of, it's so much of a starting point for people. Whereas back then, it was just something to do. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, I'm doing this thing that I never planned on doing, but they were in the moment and they were just doing these things. Yeah. And I think that's why I loved The Hills so much, was just because, like, you knew a Lauren, you knew an Audrina, you knew a Heidi, maybe when you were in high school, maybe when you were in college. We all knew a guy like Spencer. Like, we all knew a guy like Brody Jenner. Like, we all knew... who's the douchey guy that Audrina dated? Justin Bobby. Like, we all knew those people, and I think that's why so many people held on to that, and it became, at least for a short period of time, it became a part of pop culture. Everyone was talking about Heidi and Spencer at some point. Everyone was talking about the falling out of Lauren and Heidi. Like, people were eventually, that was a part, it wasn't for very long, and it didn't last that long, but it was a part of pop culture, at least for a little while. Mad TV made 2 parody sketches off of The Hills, which is so funny. But so this is my guilty pleasure reality show. I have others, but what do you have any like guilty pleasure reality shows or movies or TV? It doesn't have to be reality shows.
No, I'm gonna do reality shows because that's what the theme is this month. Of course, I love me a Top Chef.
Oh yeah,
I can always put a Top Chef on, no matter what season, what episode. There are some that I go to that are always like my standard of like, I can watch it from start to finish.
There's an era where I will come home and there is the first Top Chef All-Stars.
Yes.
Where they're doing the overnight at Target.
Yes.
Is that the episode where Dale wins with the grilled cheese and the tomato soup?
I love that
episode. And Carla gets sidetracked with like the table decorations and stuff like that.
You're just like, cook!
Love me some Carla, but yeah.
Yeah, so I love Top Chef. I will say back in the day, I did love, and this was way before you could catch it on repeat, was Girls Next Door.
Oh yeah, big time.
I
love that show.
We've talked about that show and we listened to their podcast. We used to listen to it regularly and we've fallen off of it a little bit. But
there are just so many podcasts.
Well, that and we're not in the car together as much.
Right.
I mean, we will be once we start going to New Orleans for our musical. So, but I used to love that show because it was just so out of anything I think I would have ever done in my life. Like, seeing myself live at the Playboy Mansion in my 20s. I mean, like I said, my mom used to watch it with me like Gina used to watch it with you, I think. And I remember my mom like going, would you have ever done that? And I'm like, I don't know. My
Yeah.
life was so different when I was 21. I was in college in a sorority in a small town. But, these, women, girls, I mean, they were very young. And, like maybe they didn't have choices or maybe that's what they wanted.
I think I think unfortunately with the girlfriends of Hugh Hefner and the women and girls that lived in the Playboy Mansion, a lot of their stories were, I didn't have a lot of options.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
They're probably a little preyed upon, just a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And then, so Girls Next Door, Top Chef. I do love any old Real World Road Rules.
Yeah.
If, those are very limited and where you can find, I mean, some of like the challenge and stuff,
Yeah.
but like old road rules. And then, my ultimate favorite are the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders making the team.
I think that is like the culmination of a guilty pleasure
Oh,
reality
it's total,
TV show for
obviously.
you.
I mean, one, because it's competition, it's
Oh, yeah.
also real. And it's kind of how you just said, which was kind of an interesting take, because there are a lot of people who bash the original, like the pink and blue making the team. They do have the new Netflix one, America's Sweethearts
right?
on Netflix, that has had 2 seasons and it's coming out with a 3rd. That a lot of people panned Judy and Kelly and the show a lot because of how harsh they were with the girls, that was their reality. But I'm like, okay, after the first season, if you went and tried out for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, you knew what to expect.
Right.
I mean, like, if I went to try out, I would for sure be in the section of the bloopers of tryouts. Well, of course, tryouts are very different since the pandemic and the video and stuff. But
kind of glad they do it differently.
Oh,
now.
me too. That was a little harsh. But again,
that was
it's
the
why
era.
you were watching.
Yeah.
I mean, those girls showed up. I mean, those girls had to know they were going to be on TV and they were going to be made fun of. And then once you got to the actual training camp of DCC, I mean, they didn't pull any punches. I mean, they were very open with them about weight, expectations, attendance, tardiness, appearances, their looks. And I know that might be harsh, particularly for women on women.
Yeah.
But it's what was expected of them and told to them. If they didn't like it, they had free will and could leave. Now, I will say a development of the DCC into current time that I can appreciate the evolution of is the seriousness of things like mental health.
Yeah.
Their work-life balance. A lot of them now, I mean, actually all of them now get paid a fair actual salary.
So where that can be their full-time job.
That is their full-time job.
They don't have to have 3 jobs, plus being a Dallas Cowboys
that
cheerleader.
Takes up.
When you first told me how much they originally got paid, I damn near had a heart attack. I was like, you've got to be, all the work that those girls do, and they're working for essentially like less than server wages, is like,
yes.
You make more money being a bartender. And that's not dissing bartenders. I work in the restaurant industry, but like it is the idea that like you have this job that consumes everything, but you are getting paid nothing. I remember being upset and angry for those girls. Yes. I just remember I couldn't, and then finding out how much they get paid now, I'm like, I don't feel bad for them anymore. But anyway,
they I mean, and when you work for an organization like the Dallas Cowboys, you're like, these people make like $1 billion
the most popular professional cheerleader team ever.
And I will say my final uber super bad guilty pleasure is either version of Southern Charm, the Charleston one or the New Orleans, which only has 2 seasons, but I still love it because it's in New Orleans. But again, those are very, very much like a lot of drama with friends, with faux friends, frenemies, exes. There's a cesspool of dating within
that new season of Southern Charm. Looks like it's going to be drama.
Yeah. So again, I love a reality show. And as we've talked about on a couple of episodes of our pod, is that I think they've changed. I think technology has changed it. Social media has changed it.
Yeah.
Formatting, accompanying podcasts and things like that have changed. And just a lot has changed over time because I mean, like even Southern Charm, I mean, which has now been on, I've lost track, like 10 plus seasons, or maybe it's in its 10th season.
I think it's season 11.
Yeah, it might be 11 coming up. So
I'm almost positive.
I mean, back in the day, the stuff that was said and done, particularly to the women.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was, I will admit, it was pretty bad. I can't believe I kept watching, but I always just was like, it's the South, it's Southern stuff. I love anything that takes place near or around my city, and then especially Southern Charm, New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. Well,
shout out to Tamika, love them, Justin, Barry,
Kelsey,
Reagan, Kelsey, the nurse, and then John Moody, and then Reagan was in Moody, and then Reagan was in law school when I was here, so I actually taught her at some point.
Yep.
So
Moody was my favorite.
Oh yeah, he was amazing.
Cool Ranch Doritos. I always think of that.
So again, I love a reality show because I can get lost in it. I can accept it for what it is.
Doesn't take much for me. Yeah.
So, anywho, those are my guilty pleasures.
Yeah, one that like I've gone back and rewatched because there's an era of reality TV. If it didn't get put on a streaming platform, it's damn near impossible to find now. Like so many times, it gets taken off of YouTube because of copyright laws, as it rightfully should. You're illegally posting these things that you do not properly actually own. One that I wish was more accessible was America's Best Dance Crew. I watched every season of it. I watched every episode of it. Just like you, I love a good competition reality series. I get into it, and we just had an episode where we talked about, are we competitive? And I said no, but I certainly love watching people compete. So obviously I wasn't, I didn't have that realization.
And you and I have a great appreciation for dancers, singers.
Love it. I
can be amazed.
I remember getting you to watch my favorite season of America's Best Dance Crew with Electrolytes and A-Flavas and Rated Next Generation and all of these really great crews. And I really miss that show. I wish they would put it on Paramount Plus because it was an MTV show, but it's not, and you can find copies of it somewhere, like off of like Dailymotion or YouTube sometimes. But it's a show that I really enjoyed watching. Pretty much like the whole VH1 era of reality TV. I remember the first season of Surreal Life, and I was obsessed. It was like Real World, but better because it was like people that were once famous or were currently famous. The idea was like they were kind of like has-beens, which is a really kind of rough thing to say about someone, but I think going into it, they kind of like knew maybe what they were getting into. I don't know if that was like they understood the premise of it, but I remember like the first season had from 90210 Gabrielle Carteris. I forgot. Carteris. Yeah, and then but my favorite season was when it was like Debrat, Jane Weedland, Chyna the wrestler. It had the guy that played Mini-Me in the Austin Powers.
Vern Troyer.
Yeah, Vern Troyer. And then
did it have Christopher Knight?
And then Adrian.
I actually, as you said that, I was like, I love me some America's Next Top Model.
And then they had the Mark Schecklenberg. I think that was his name. That is such a fun season. It really is cool to kind of see people who are relatively famous, or at least were once relatively famous, see them like become friends and become like a little unit. I don't know how long they were actually in that house for. I don't know how performative it actually was, but Chris Knight and Adrian were together for a while.
Got married.
They got their spinoff. They got and then the next
divorced.
And then the next season with it was like Dave Coulier, Flavor Flav, Bridget Nielsen. That was such a great season, and then that started the entire dating thing because it started with Strange Love with Bridget Nielsen and Flavor Flav, and they had like their little romance. And then that started Flavor of Love, which just spun off so many dating shows. What was the other one? Rock of Love with Bret Michaels.
Yes.
That was the one and I Love New York were the ones that I watched all the time. That was the only time where, other than Are You the One, where I would watch dating reality shows because they were so insanely entertaining, because you had these people And that may or may not have kind of been the beginning of like having a more performative cast and having a little bit more based on entertainment and maybe not so much on authenticity. But I Love New York was just, I mean, it had so much gold. And then Charm School, which I loved. That was like all the bad girls from all the VH1 shows that were like learning how to like be ladies, I guess. I don't know. But like Monique hosted it. Ricky Lake hosted it. Sharon Osbourne hosted a season. Megan Wants a Millionaire, which had a whole lot of controversy because of the guy that won Megan Wants a Millionaire ended up like murdering someone. Like it was just this.
Oh, was
whole,
that the one?
He won. He won I Love Money, which was like the VH1
but
the challenge.
He murdered that girl and like put her in a suitcase. Oh yes.
Yeah, and then he tried to cash his I Love Money that he won, but like they wouldn't let him, and that was when they didn't air. They took Megan Wants a Millionaire off the air, and they never aired that season of I Love Money, which I mean also riddled with a lot of controversy. But yeah, I remember that era, and I'm just like. That really happened. I was like, that wasn't a fever dream. That really happened. Flavor of Love, multiple seasons of all of these women sweating over Flavor Flav. That happened. Like, that actually happened. That blows my mind. Like, that I mean, no offense to Flavor Flav, but I mean, like, you know, and then that was Chance and his and his brother that were on I Love New York. Then they had their own dating show. It was like, if you were memorable enough on a dating show, you would get your own spinoff. Like, that was how it worked on VH1. Like, I mean, if anyone deserved a spinoff, it was New York. It was Tiffany Pollard. Like, who's still, she's going to be on House of Villains. I think she's going to be on Traitors. Like, I think she's still making it.
That's like the evolution of The Bachelor. And then they had, you know, the runner-up was Trista Sutter, and they started The Bachelorette. So it always became like a favorite or someone that everyone liked to be the next one. And then all of a sudden they were like Bachelor Pad and then Bachelor in Paradise, which were all former Bachelor and Bachelorette like people. And I'm like, the petri dish of sex and STDs that are happening. I'm like, I'm sure they're tested. Of course I know. But it's just like, oh my God, it's insane.
And then in more recent years, you've got me into a little show called Below Deck.
Oh, of course.
That I remember when we were in Orange Beach and we were visiting Maddie. We had like a little family thing, and we were staying in a different hotel because we wanted Maddie and Grayson to hang out with their grandparents and have their own time. We were just kind of there to visit them and to see them. And we went back to the hotel, and you were like, hey, can we watch it was like the premiere episode of like the season premiere episode of Below Deck Mediterranean. And just in case you didn't know.
They're not EMTs.
And I was like, sure, whatever. And I started watching it, and you do the thing where you have no idea what this show is, and you start getting slightly interested, and you start asking questions. I'm like, so this is a spinoff? You're like, yeah, there's another show. It's been on for however many seasons. It has these cast members in it. I'm like, so it just shows like these people who essentially work in the service industry. It shows them like working, and you're like, yeah. And I'm like, the show exists. You know, I'm just like, people are interested because it's in my mind, it's parallel. It's not the same, but it's parallel to what I do for a living, and it's not the same, obviously, but like it's in the same world. In the same industry, and I just like people are interested in that, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, it's a reality show. There's an interest, anybody, you know. It's like that's the whole point. And then I became obsessed with Below Deck. I went back and watched all of the seasons. Season 3 with Rocky and Eddie and Ben and Chef Leon, one of the greatest seasons of any show ever. That season was epic. So many people got fired.
Oh, yeah.
So many people got fired. They had so many new people that kept coming in. And there's been no other season like Below Deck ever since that, where it's just like, you know, I love the season where it's the first season with Anastasia and Aisha.
Oh,
and
my God.
They have the
good morning.
And then the season of Below Deck Med where it was like Colin's first season. He became one of my favorite. That was the season that we watched in Orange Beach. God, it was just like, I just was obsessed with it. And then we fell off of it strictly because they just started creating too many spinoffs, and it was like, it seemed like at any time there was a Below Deck season going on of Below Deck Australia, Below Deck Med, Below Deck
Norway,
regular, Below Deck Norway, and that captain took over.
Catamaran
Yeah, that
version.
That below deck took over. That below deck captain took over Captain Lee in the original below. It's just, yeah, it's really, it's become a franchise, and it's just kind of crazy that I started watching it like right when it was like becoming that. And so, yeah, I can go back and watch the first like 5 seasons of the original Below Deck.
The Rocky, Leon, Kate episodes were good. Colin, I love all those. So you speaking about the industry, the restaurant industry, there was actually a reality show with Rocco DiSpirito. You know, he's like that Italian chef. Yeah. He's been on Top Chef several times. He had a reality show called The Restaurant.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
And it, I think, was 2 seasons. It was all about him opening up his restaurant, front of house, back of house, recipes. His mom was on it, like all the menu, the uniforms they were going to wear, buying all of the like plates, utensils. And I watched that one, both seasons, because again, my father was a cook too, so I think that's why I love cooking stuff. But yeah, that one was good because Rocco was pretty new. He had not been, I don't think Top Chef even existed at that point. Gotcha. I'm trying to think. Maybe it did, but I don't know if he had been on it yet. But that was a good one. If we could ever track that one down, that one's only
The Restaurant.
Yeah, it's called The Restaurant.
There has to be clips of it on YouTube.
Oh, gotta be. All right.
Okay, so I talked about it for a second when I was talking about The Hills, but one of the big storylines of The Hills that happened a little later on in the series, I think it was like season 3 and on, Lauren and Heidi, who were once best friends and roommates, they had a falling out.
Okay.
Over a boy because Lauren didn't like Spencer didn't like Lauren, and all of that. So I think we've all had falling outs with a friend. So do you have a time in your life where you had a falling out with a friend, and how did you like handle that?
Yeah, I think I've talked a little bit about it. One with my sorority sister who I'm not going to say her name, but it's not bad. Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad story. It was just, to me, truly a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, and a lot of sort of self-created drama. And I'm not going to say it lingers in a bad way because we've seen each other, we've done things together, but it was the one where one of the sorority sisters, we used to go on girls' trips all the time, and one was pregnant, one was trying to get pregnant, and a couple of us knew about the one who was pregnant, and then the other one didn't know. And I was on a trip with one of them and told her, and one of the sorority sisters got upset, and I was like, well, it wasn't like she was not going to find out. She was eventually going to give birth.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't want her to find out the information when she was alone. And I feel like maybe the only person that should have been mad at me was the one who was pregnant.
Yeah.
But even she was fine with it. She's like, I'm glad you told her because I didn't know how to tell her.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew she's been trying. And the one who got really mad at me was the sorority sister who I had been really the closest to. And, she kind of started blackballing me from going on girls' trips with them. And the 3 of them would go on trips together without me anymore. And it was kind of an evolution of my time here, specifically in Baton Rouge, because that happened actually around 2012, and literally maybe 3 or 4 months later was when I met Summer.
Gotcha.
And because I was at a really down time, because I had felt I was doing something non-malicious. I mean, I didn't tell her about the pregnancy in a mean way to like taunt her. I was like, just letting you know she's pregnant, and you're going to find out. I just feel like you need to know now. And
Yeah.
again, maybe it wasn't my news to tell, but this was really early on. And, anyway, so that we've evolved from it. I still talk to all of them.
Yeah.
We don't go on girls' trips anymore. I've seen all of them since, but that was a hard one because, again, I think the falling out didn't come from a bad place.
Yeah.
It came, I don't even really know where it came from. I think it came from like a place of like, I wanted to tell her, and it shouldn't have been you for some reason. I don't know. There's also been another recent one that has developed, and I actually think it's a little bit of jealousy on the other person's part. She would probably deny that. And, I definitely understand when you are at a different point in your life and you're making changes, or you meet new people, you have new friends, or you don't see your old ones as much. But there has been a lot of like anger and hate and, just a lot of like gossiping and stuff. And again, I'm just all like, hey, if you have new friends and you don't want to be my friend anymore, totally cool. I can't control what you do.
Right.
I can only control what I do. And I don't feel like I've done anything worthy of you hating me so much. I really can't identify anything, but she has chosen not to like me any longer. And I'm like, all right, that's good to know. And I'll move on. The sun will come up the next day. And
the sun will come out tomorrow.
Yeah. And so, I think those are hard, especially when people make decisions like that without really any reasoning. And you're just kind of going, okay, did I do... Like, I really do rack my brain sometime, and I'm like, I really don't think I've done anything worthy of, like, the hate. And, like, people have been like, it's a little bit of jealousy, and I'm like, I don't think I'm worthy of being jealous of, so that doesn't make sense to me either. But again, I can't dissect it. And then people would probably say, why don't you talk to her? I'm like, she probably wouldn't talk to me anyway. So she's at that point in her life. But again, what about you?
I mean, I've had falling outs over the years. Some have been things that it has been partly my fault. It has been completely my fault. And other times, I don't know what happened. And I don't know where it came from. One that always kind of sticks out to me is I had a really good friend. We became friends our senior year of high school. And we just became really close, like best friends. And then I moved to Florida. And then when I moved back home after living in Florida, something was just like different between us. I don't fully know what it was, but like when I moved back from Florida, when I moved home, I was dealing with a lot. I was going through a divorce. I was going through all of these things. I more or less was coming home with my tail between my legs. Mm-hmm. That's how it felt, at least. I don't know if that's how other people viewed it. That's how it felt. And I just...
Well, I think you left because you wanted to find independence.
Yeah.
You wanted not to get away from your family in a negative way, but you had been here your whole life.
I just wanted to do something different and do something new.
You came back because you were maybe struggling a little bit.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And I couldn't afford living in Florida on my own. Yeah. And Florida is very expensive, more expensive than Louisiana. And I was just in a different place in my life. And I think something that has always stuck with me of who I am as a person. I've said many times that there are times where I wish I was a better friend to people, where I wish I was more present, where I didn't flake out on people. Like, I wish I was more like that, but obviously I can't change the past. I can just learn from it and try to be a better person. But this was kind of the era where I got really tired of certain friendships that I had, where I felt like I was the one putting in all the effort, and the other person was just expecting me to put in all the effort. And when it feels like a one-sided friendship, I'm like, do you even want to be my friend? Like, why are you pretending like you want to be my friend, where it feels like hanging out with me is like a burden, or it's like it's taking up a part of your day? And I remember like we would make plans to hang out, but it always had to be around his schedule and basically fuck my schedule. That's how it felt. Like that's often how it felt. And so we had plans to go see a movie, and he was like, "Hey, there's a showing Friday at this time." And I'm like, "I have to work. What's another time?" I never heard back from him. And then that Friday he was like, "So are we meeting at the movies?" And I said, "I can't meet you. I told you I can't work." And then he sends me this text back, or he called me, or I don't remember exactly what it was, and basically tired of me flaking out on him. He's saying that like I'm a flake, I'm unreliable, and I'm just sitting there like, I told you I couldn't make it. I told you I had to work. I work every Friday night. I've been working every Friday night since I moved back home. I don't understand why.
Practically since I've known you, you've worked every Friday night.
I didn't understand why he was so angry with me, and so he stopped talking to me, and he unfriended me, did all that stuff. And so some time had passed, and I was just kind of like, this is stupid. Like, we were such good friends. We got into a dumb fight, and now we don't talk to each other anymore. Like, I felt like that was stupid. So I messaged him and kind of sent him this text message being like, I'm completely taking the fall, even though I didn't fully agree with it. I was just like, let me be. I hate trying to sound like a little pretentious, but let me be the bigger person, and let me be the one that apologizes and try and, send out an olive branch, whatever they call it,
mea culpa,
and just kind of be like, hey, we got into a really dumb fight. I'm sorry that I was a bad friend. I miss our friendship. I miss being friends with you. Is there any way that we can like talk or talk this out? Because I understand why you were annoyed or upset with me. I just don't understand why we don't talk to each other anymore. It feels like such a small thing for us to stop being friends over. And then I didn't hear back from him. He messages me back a year later.
Oh my God.
As if I had just messaged him. And he was just like, well, I stopped talking to you because you were a bad friend or something like that. And I was like, okay, I tried taking the high road. I tried being nice. Now I'm going to tell you how I feel. And so it's just like, nice guy gone. Mean Jeff, who very rarely takes over. When I am truly hurt and when I really put myself out there and be vulnerable, and you just send back shit towards me, I no longer am the fun loving person that I normally am. Once you piss me off, I'm done with you. I almost just started cussing a lot more, but I don't want to have to bleep. I don't have to spend all the time having to bleep it out. So I sent him back exactly how I felt. I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you're not really a great friend either. And I told him all of this. And I'm like, if you think I'm a bad friend, then you're the worst friend. I got really upset. I was just like, and once it starts going, I can't stop it. And he blocked me after that. So I have not spoken to him since. That was like 2012, I think, or 2013. From what I gathered, he still acts like he's in high school. He's still...
Do I know this person?
No, you don't. You've never met him. I think I've maybe have talked about him a few times. He still wears his letter jacket. He's still... And by the way, we're 41 now.
Wow.
And because he's still friends with some people that I'm friends with, and he'll get tagged and stuff, and I'll see him.
Yeah.
He was wearing his letter jacket. I'm just like, oh, you never left high school. This is why you act the way you act. I hate saying you peaked in high school, but you peaked in high school, and and I say that because you still act like you're in high school. So that's that. I've had other falling outs, but that's always the one that always sticks in my head because we were like legit friends, but from what I gather, he's not really friends with a lot of people that he used to be friends with. Yeah. So I don't fully know what happened to him. I don't know what, but yeah, that's my falling out story. I'm trying to think if maybe there's one that tops that, but I think that's the one. I think that's the one that really sticks out in my brain. Okay, so another thing on, and we've talked about exes before. You always say you didn't really date a lot, so if you don't have a story for this,
you can.
I know I have one, but... So a big part of The Hills is when Jason Waller comes back. He was on Laguna Beach. Him and Lauren had this like, will they, won't they? Because it was like, it was Kristen and Steven and then Lauren and Jason, and then they were kind of all in this love square. Jason moves to Los Angeles and kind of re-enters Lauren's life, and they kind of start dating a little bit. And so my question is, has an ex ever like resurfaced in your life? And if so, like, what was that?
Well,
what was that all about?
Well, yes, I really truly say, and anyone listening to this that knows me or it doesn't really know me very well and thinks I might be lying, I did not have like per se lots of boyfriends.
Yes.
I really did not. I mean, I would date a guy, and I don't count dating a guy as a boyfriend. I think of a boyfriend as someone where you are like absolutely committed.
Right.
And you call yourself a boyfriend and a girlfriend.
Yes.
I did not really have a lot of those kinds of relationships. I will say probably guys that I dated like in undergrad or maybe even in law school. I didn't really date anyone in Seattle except for one, which is part of this story. The way exes came back into my life was via social media. And by that, I mean, were like the ones that you would see as like recommended friend, or like they would friend me.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, a couple of guys from high school or guys from college. And so that to me was how exes came back. I remember like guys that I had dated or had met through dating apps.
Yeah.
That I would either block or unfriend after you and I got together, would friend me again. And I would accept their friendship only because I didn't want them to think I was a psychopath or something. Yeah. They were like, hey, you want to hang out? You know, probably knowing what they meant. And I'm like, well, you know, can't now. You know, just FYI, relationship update. I was either dating you, we were living together, or by this point, we're married. I've actually had guys be like, oh, well, we could hang out platonically. I'd love to meet your husband. And I'm like, what? Like, those are the most bizarre things to me. But most recently on Facebook, and probably the only guy that I really sort of dated in Seattle has popped up on Facebook. He was MIA even before I met you. I had tried to find him via social media really only because he was the guy I had dated in Seattle, and he had some issues, and I really had liked him at the time, but again, knew he was not good for me. Never knew where he was, never knew where he had ended up. And all of a sudden, one day, probably in the last year or so, his picture popped up as a recommended friend. And it literally jolted me just out of the shock that he had come up on social media. He has since married. He lives in the Midwest. So I am like, go you. You're very happy. I am happy. But again, not that we had like any deep love. I think I met him in like the summer of 2001. And I only remember that because 9/11 happened right as the time that we sort of stopped dating.
Gotcha.
He kind of left town and went somewhere, but he had eventually come back to Seattle, but I'd never seen him after that. So it was like we dated from June to September. So
gotcha.
Again, I don't count that as a boyfriend because that we would go to like coffee shops, or we went to the movies or hung out at my apartment, and that was about it. So
yeah.
But not really, and not in a negative way, because I will also say any of the guys that I ever really dated, I didn't have like a bad quote unquote like ending of a relationship. Not really. And so I if one came back and was like, even the one that was like, oh, let's hang out, I'm just not going to hang out with them, but not because of a bad reason, really just out of respect for you and because I don't really want to hang out with them. So I don't know. What about you?
So I dated a girl in high school, very briefly, maybe like 3 or 4 months or something like that, a typical high school relationship.
Yeah.
And then she went to another school, and I never really talked to her again. And then
ask Kevin. She went to another school. Sorry.
and social media played a factor into this. I mean, nearly I would say a little over a decade after we graduated high school, I get a friend request from her on Facebook, and I'm like, oh my God, I was just like, it's, I'm not gonna say her name either, but like it's her.
It's
and
her.
And
it is she.
Nothing but positive memories. It wasn't like a bad breakup or anything. It was just that she was very sweet. Our families kind of knew each other, so it was like her dad and my dad knew each other, and they were kind of from the same area. And she sent me a friend request. I messaged her. I was like, oh my God, how are you? And how's life been for you? And we kind of just started talking to each other through like text messaging. And then one day I met up with her for brunch, I think. And we had a really great conversation, and we kind of clicked, kind of like we did back then, and we started dating again. And it didn't feel like that big of a deal because we dated so briefly. We were like 16 or 17 years old, and we were like almost, I think we were 30 at this point, so it was like, wasn't that like big.
So this was before Mary Jo.
This was after Mary Jo, so I'm going to get into that. And so I started dating her, and this was kind of when she was very much so, this girl was my lesson in there's more to a relationship than just being attracted to someone. There's more to a relationship than just we know each other or we have history. You really want to be in a relationship with someone that you have a lot of the same views and opinions, and not that you have to be exactly the same, because you and I are different in a lot of ways, but I think like in a lot of important ways you and I are very similar, and we have pretty similar like outlooks on things and opinions on things, and we have a lot of common interests, and like I think that was also really important, and that was kind of my lesson. And this isn't an insulting or negative thing to say, because I'm not against anyone who is religious, but she was a church girl. Like, she went to church every Sunday and Wednesday. She was in a Bible study. Like, she was very involved in the church. Her family was really involved in the church, and that's 100% fine. I have no qualms about that, but I'm just not that person. Like, it's not that I'm not going to sit here and say I'm religious, because I'm not, but like, I am just not, it's not that this is a really tough thing to say out loud. I don't really believe in that. I'm not I don't like saying an atheist. I don't like putting a label on it, because I just don't know what I believe in. I know that I have this wonderful life that I am so grateful for. But I feel like we are in control of our own destiny. I don't feel like there's this laid out path for us like a lot of people view it as. I just have different opinions about that. And we all have different opinions. That's what makes this world so beautiful. We can all, hopefully, I would like for us to all live in harmony together, but we don't. But I mean, like, I just don't have those views. I don't believe in that specific type of thing. And it became a big deal. Like, it became, for me at least, I don't know what it was. I am never going to talk to her, so it doesn't matter. But like, I just didn't agree with it. And also, like, this is going to sound weird because you have all these degrees, you're a very successful woman, but she had a master's degree, she had a PhD, she was a social worker, we lived very different lives, and it was very much like she kind of viewed my life as like less than, and I didn't really like that. It didn't make me feel good about myself. It didn't make me feel good about where I was in my life. This was a little over a year after Mary Jo died, so I was still dealing with a lot, and I probably shouldn't have gotten into another relationship. Hindsight's 2020, but I just slowly just began to realize I need to stop dating just to date, and I need to be with someone that I want to be with. Like, that I need to stop I had a Ted Mosby moment where it was just like, I need to stop casually dating because it doesn't make me happy.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be with someone, I want it to be with someone that I'm going to. Maybe, it wasn't always marriage, live together, cohabitate, build a life together. It was like, that was like my moment of growth. I guess we could just call it that. It was my transitioning into, if I'm going to date someone, I want it to be the real thing. I don't want to casually date anymore. I'm over it. It's not for me. It never really was for me. I never was much of a casual dater anyway, but I was looking for the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with if I was going to date again. And I tried talking to her about it, and she really didn't hear me. And maybe I didn't make my point. Maybe I was being too passive. I don't know. It was really hazy back then. I was medicated. I was dealing with a lot. So a lot of that era of my life is very fuzzy. But my memory is that I essentially, I'm not proud of this, I essentially ghosted her.
Oh,
because she just didn't really understand what I was dealing with. She didn't really understand what I was going through. That's nothing against her. I want nothing but the best for this girl. She's a great human being, and she was a good girlfriend, and we had some things in common, and we enjoyed each other's company, but for the most part, we were never going to work out. So it was just kind of like, she didn't get that. She didn't really hear me. So I was just like, I can't do this. I was just like, yeah. I can't do this. And yeah, so that's that. It wasn't really heartbreaking for me. It was a moment of clarity for me, and it was a moment of growth for me. But I do wish I would have handled it better, but hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because I will say Seattle guy was a moment of clarity for me. Mm-hmm. And I always remember we dated in 2001 because that was the year that I joined the junior league in Seattle, and 9/11 happened
in 2011.
Angela Smosh reference. We know it was 2001. Well, so I joined the junior league, and our first meeting was supposed to be that Saturday after 9/11, which I think was on a Tuesday. I remember I met we still had that first meeting because we wanted to do something positive after everything that had happened in the country. And I remember later on that month, I was going out with my new little provisional group, a pledge group of new members. And all I remember him saying was like, well, you didn't ask me if you could go out with them. And I'm like, I stopped asking for permission when I was 18. Yeah. I was like, once, and especially after my father died when I was 20, I was like, I've been on my own at this point for 11 years of my life. Right. And so I just remember that. And then I remembered also, I wasn't traveling not nearly as much as I travel now. Yeah. I was only going to Spokane and to Moscow, Idaho, once a month. And all I remember with him telling me was like, I don't really like that you travel so much for work. You're never here. And I just was like, okay, it's my job. Yeah. It's not like I'm going because I am trying to get away from you.
I really want to go to Moscow.
Yeah, Moscow.
I always say Moscow, Idaho. It rhymes.
Yes. Okay. And there's no cow in Moscow.
Nice.
That's how they taught me. And so I just remember sitting and thinking to myself, after he had left my apartment that night, going, is this who I want to be with? Yeah. And I will admit he kind of ghosted me. Okay. And so all I remember was sort of feeling relief, because I was like, I liked him, but deep down I knew he wasn't good for me. Yeah. One, because he seemed to diss on my just personal success. Mm-hmm. He also seemed like he would be a controlling person, and I knew those things were just not good, and certainly not good for me. I mean, I certainly am not going to apologize for the schooling I've done and the career path that I've laid out for anyone. And so those were good lessons as a young single female of learning quickly of what you don't want in a relationship. Yeah. And I appreciated those lessons, because I was like, I will also say it did become sort of eye-opening because there were a lot of guys like that could not handle that I was successful, that I have bought my own homes, my own cars, that I didn't need to be, paid for or financially supported. And a lot of guys find that emasculating and can't handle it. So, anywho.
Yeah.
All right. What else? What's next? What's my next question?
Nothing. I'm about to say you ready to get into this plot summary.
Hell yeah.
So short episode, short summary.
All right.
They really kind of get to the point, which I always appreciate. All right. So The Hills plot summary. Lauren makes her way to Los Angeles and meets her friend and roommate Heidi at their new apartment. Just as Lauren is about to explore her new home, Teen Vogue calls, changing her interview time from 5 that afternoon to whenever she can get to their offices. That wasn't planned.
Right. Because she's all of a sudden ready.
Yeah. Lauren heads out and interviews with West Coast editor Lisa Love for the internship position. After the interview, Lauren goes back to her apartment where Heidi introduces her to a new friend, Audrina. Later that evening, the three, along with Lauren's friend David, Heidi's boyfriend Jordan, pre-Spencer, and Jordan's roommate Brian, head to Geisha House for sushi.
Woo.
That was like such a 2000s reference.
Oh my God,
like, because
totally.
I remember like every movie set in Los Angeles in the mid 2000s, they were at Geisha House. The next day, Lauren and Heidi head to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising and meet with the school administration. While Lauren is called a together gal, Heidi is asked if she is in the right school. So that interview process was really funny because it was like Lauren interviewed so well and she's like answering the questions in a very professional way. And Heidi really is just acting like she just wandered off from the street and just scheduled an appointment with the school administrator. It was like every question, it was like, yeah, I don't really like working that hard. I really like going out with my friends. And I'm like, I don't know if your parents were telling you to go to do this thing or what, and you were just doing it so they'll pay your half of the rent. I don't know, but it was like, you are really not trying to make a good impression at all. It was very funny.
It was like she was trying not to.
Right.
Really.
Back at the apartment, Teen Vogue editor Blaine calls Lauren to offer her the internship. On her first day at Teen Vogue, Lauren meets Whitney, another intern who Whitney was my favorite. Always thought she was really funny. Lisa Love talks to both girls about what is expected of them during the internship. Their first task is to address envelopes for an event celebrating the magazine's just released Hollywood issue. Oh, so speaking of Southern Charm, wasn't Landon on the Hills?
Yes,
she was one of the assistants.
Receptionist or administrative assistant.
So yeah, they tried to make her a series regular, or they tried to give her a more of a role, and she just like refused. I forgot for what reason, which is really ironic because she ended up on Southern Charm for far too long. Lauren explains her internship and the upcoming party to Heidi that evening. Heidi asks Lauren if she can sneak her and her friends in, but Lauren doesn't want to do anything to jeopardize her internship. The next day at work, Lisa lets Lauren and Whitney know that they will be working at the party this weekend and sets down the rules. You are there to work, not party. On the night of the event, Blaine explains to Lauren that she will be reserving a section of seats for celebrities. As soon as he leaves, Lauren receives a call from Heidi. She is waiting outside with Audrina, Jordan, and Brian and asks Lauren to sneak them into the party. Like, this girl has been working for this place for like a week at this point.
If that.
And you're going to try and like, obviously production, it's to make a interesting episode, but like the idea that I would never do this to you. Like, I would never in a million years, neither would Summer, neither would Alicia. Like, we would obviously we're grown adults, so it's a little different. They were still really young, but yeah, I just can't imagine like any of my friends doing this to me. Lauren tells them no, but they insist. They will not leave. They are just like I just can't believe Lauren like tolerated any of this. Lauren asks Whitney if she can let her friends in, and Whitney does. As soon as they are in, Brian immediately sits down in the section that Lauren is supposed to be reserving. Heidi and Jordan begin fighting, and Blaine comes to ask Lauren about the drama at the door. So Whitney was working the door. She let them in. To make matters worse, Lauren's friends are all seated in the reserve section when Lisa Love passes by. Lisa reminds Lauren that no one is supposed to be sitting there and tells Lauren that they will discuss this on Monday. End of episode. I would be livid at my friends. I really want to watch episode 2 because like I don't remember what the fallout was. Obviously, Lauren keeps her job at Teen Vogue. She probably just gets like a slap on the wrist. Because I think she works for Teen Vogue like the entire time that she's on the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because then there was this internship or this program in Europe that she was supposed to go on, but it was like, does she choose her career or does she choose Jason, her love, who was supposed to she was supposed to spend the summer with, and she chooses love, and it ends up becoming this big falling out. I can't believe she picked Jason Waller for anything. No offense to Jason Waller, he's doing well. He is married. He has a kid. He was on The Hills New Beginnings. He's doing very well, but at the time he was just another LA bum kind of guy who was just wearing Ed Hardy trucker hats and going to whatever club was cool at the time. So yeah, that's The Hills. It's on Paramount Plus. This is purely for nostalgia's sake. I highly recommend going back and watching this. I was very tempted to click on episode 2, but I was like, we had other stuff to watch. We watched this the night that we watched all of our shows for the month. We watched it all in one night.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't really elaborate, but I was just like, the show was, especially the era where Heidi and Lauren weren't friends, that was like peak The Hills. It was just so funny. It was just so interesting to kind of see this dynamic, and seeing it in the very first episode, like you see how different Lauren and Heidi are. And while that makes for a great friendship, being different than, you don't want to be exactly like the people that you're friends with, but kind of Heidi's overall lack of consideration.
Oh my God, I was dying.
Her being very narcissistic and being very self-serving, it continues. That ends up being the big thing in their relationship. And then she meets Spencer, who is probably the most self-serving person to ever walk this planet. And he is still, I'm Spencer, I'm the main character in everybody's story. He has not changed at all, which almost kudos to him for never having any growth, but also like, watching The Hills New Beginnings, I was like, you are the exact same person. Yeah. Like, you have had zero growth. Justin Bobby even had some growth in The New Beginnings, and he was a total bum. But, like, it's so good. It's such good TV. It is one of the great definitions of trashy reality TV, where there's no point to it. There's no end goal. Because with competition reality,
there's a prize.
There's a point. And even with like other lifestyle reality shows like Southern Charm, there's always some like overall kind of storyline going on that culminates to the end. The Hills wasn't like that. It was like, we are dropping a camera into these people's lives. People have criticized it and questioned its authenticity. Was it scripted? Is very much.
Well, this episode seems like that. Like,
it's very
I
much.
would have told my friends, get the F out and go back to the apartment.
It seems very much like it was different from other reality shows where the quality of film looked more like a movie. It didn't really look like a reality show all the time. Production value, MTV put a lot of money into this show. I don't know if it was the number one show at the time. I think Teen Mom has always held that title, but like,
wow.
I mean, honestly,
in
my Super Sweet 16, everyone watched that show. I watched the shit out of that show.
I love that.
We could sit here and talk about trashy reality TV all day, but we're going to call it quits for tonight.
Yes.
So that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right. I don't have that many for The Hills. Any of the fashion emojis, like the clothes, purse, jewelry, the phone, the heart for Lisa Love.
Oh, yeah.
Sushi, the school, the envelopes, the party hat, the chair to represent that section she was supposed to be reserving, the stars because it was like a big Hollywood celebrity party.
Even though we didn't see any.
Yeah, that's funny. The clipboard and the door.
Drama at the door.
Drama at the door. All right, well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.